Well, anyway, let's go ahead and go to our next caller. We're going to try Julius again in New York. Julius, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. What's up, Julius?
Okay, sweet. So I'd like to talk about science, and I'd like to talk about God.
Okay.
I believe that science has proven that there's a God.
Whoa. All right. Cool. Let's dig in. Tell me why you think science has proven there is a God.
Okay. So are you familiar with the double-slit experiment? I'm pretty sure most of the listeners are probably not.
I am familiar with the double-slit experiment, although you're probably right. It's good to kind of explain these terms and stuff for the listeners.
Okay, well, that's going to be kind of a task. I'll try.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff that's in that double-slit experiment, but basically, science has found that particles, which everything is made of, you, me, the table, the microphone, the cell phone I'm talking on, particles are in a state of probability until they're observed or until they're seen or witnessed. So the double-slit experiment is basically they shot electrons through two slits, and the pattern that the electrons made on the wall behind the double slits showed basically that the electrons are in multiple places at once. Maybe that sounds a little bit crazy, but the details of it is actually very long and drawn out. Mm-hmm. They basically show that particles are in states of probability or in a state of a wave format where it is everywhere that it could possibly be until it is witnessed or observed by something. So one of the scientists that are very famous for it is Schrödinger. He's the guy that basically said if there's a cat in a box, is it alive or dead? Mm-hmm. And his answer to that question was basically the cat is alive and it is dead until you see the cat. And then then other scientists went on to prove that, as crazy as that sounds, that is actually the state of everything, the state of particles.
Well, if I might just, I don't want to interrupt too much with your explanation, which I think you're doing a really good job so far in explaining like the general terms. I think one caveat I might add, though, is that when it comes to the electron, the double-slit experiment, the interpretations of these results do vary. I think to say to prove one way or the other, I think that might be a bit of an overstatement in only that there are several different explanations for what we can interpret as to the results of this thing. And to say that it's absolutely conclusive, I wouldn't go as far. I wouldn't be as confident. But what you're describing is one of the interpretations of this experiment, yes.
I've not heard any other interpretation of that experiment at all.
Really?
Would you mind maybe telling me any other interpretation of that?
Yeah, so I'm trying, I'm not, it's been a bit since I've read on my physics, and I can't remember all the different names of the different...
that's totally fine. I'm a paraphysicist.
You're a paraphysicist?
So that is totally fine.
Did you say paraphysicist?
Hello? No, I'm a paramedic.
Oh, paramedic.
I'm not a physicist.
I thought you said paraphysicist, and then we were about to have a totally different conversation because I want to know what paraphysics is. But
no.
Yeah. Aimé, what does that have to do with a God?
Yeah, that's true too. I could look up the different kinds of interpretations and stuff, but I am interested in how this proves God because I've heard people try to bridge the double-slit experiment and its interpretations to a belief in God, and I've heard it done different ways. So I'd love to hear how you do that.
Okay. So basically, when you observe something, you destroy the wave format of the thing, and it is now here or there. So it's no longer in a state of probability just by witnessing it. So you make it real by witnessing it. So if I witness, say, this pencil that's in my hand, in order for the pencil to be real, I would have to observe the pencil. And in order for me to be real, someone would have to observe me, and so on and so forth. So this is where I think it proves God. Because who or what was around to collapse the wave format of the Big Bang? Who was around to collapse that probability state where the entropy allowed it to then be the Big Bang? because entropy was as high as it could possibly be in order for it to be. So everything was as as uniform as possible. What was there to start that chain of events?
Okay.
Who observed or what observed the first thing to set the Big Bang chain of events off?
Okay.
Who was it?
I want to ask you some questions then. But first, before I do, I just went to the Wikipedia article for double-slit experiment, and already there's one of the articles, like the subpoints, is interpretations of the experiment. And there's literally like 5 different interpretations right there on the Wikipedia article. So there are, I will say, and this is, based on, what I've read about this before, there are definitely other interpretations, but let's go with the assumption that you have, right? Let's say that your particular interpretation, which is one of, and I don't know which one, but it is one of the interpretations that people make from this, okay? And you come to the conclusion that there has to be something that was at the beginning of the Big Bang, as you put it, to kind of kick off entropy.
Collapse that probability.
To collapse that probability. Okay, yeah. So what makes you think
entropy? Entropy was as high as it could possibly be at the start of the Big Bang. From then on, not high, as low as it could possibly be. Entropy increases with time. Entropy is just another word for chaos. So at the start of the Big Bang, you have to have the perfect setting for it to happen in the first place. And after the Big Bang, entropy increases. That's actually like one of the laws of thermodynamics. I think it's the second one or something like that.
And you believe it has to be a god, though?
I think, all right, so this is, when I was trying to explain it to your call taker, we kind of got hung up on that word also.
Okay.
So on your show, I hear a lot of when you talk to your listeners, you basically, everyone comes with the same format, basically. They all think that God is either Allah or Jesus or in a Bible or in a book somewhere. I think that God is not exactly what we thought God was. Just the same way time is not a watch. Time is an actual thing. You understand? A watch, it ticks so that we can live our day. We can do what we need to get done. But that clock that's ticking on your hand is not time. Time is malleable. Time is ever changing. If I go higher in our atmosphere, time moves differently for me. If I go faster, time moves differently for me. If I sit still, time moves different. My feet has different time than my head does. You understand? Time is not real. Time is an actual. Time is not time as in the ticking clock is not real time. Time is an actual thing, as real as say gravity is. That's why they call it the space-time continuum. It's in the fabric of everything.
Okay.
I think that that's the way that we kind of look at God, as in if he's not in a book, if he has not been, if he's not one of these characters that are in these books, then there is no God. I think that that's not true. I think that there is a God, and God is literally everything. Like the way that the Bible kind of says it, I think there's a lot of clues that are in the Bible if you don't take it literal. But I think that God is literally everything, the universe. And that's how he's a part of all of us, because we're made from the universe, in the universe, because of the universe.
Well,
that's what I think.
Okay, well, so just a point of clarification here, because the pantheist idea of God, like God being everything, I've heard that before, but to me, my question whenever I always hear that is just like, why, if God is just literally everything, then why call it God? Like, why not just call it everything? What makes it special enough to be God at that point?
Well, but the same way that your fingernail does not know that it is a part of you. There's atoms in you that, it lives its whole day without ever knowing about you. Cells are as complex as complete cities, and they have no clue that they're a part of your body. You understand? But it is still your body. It is one thing to say, okay, I don't necessarily need to, why do I need to label this? Because God is important for a lot of people. You understand? God is so important, and it is one of the first things that man has dreamed of. I'm not against religion at all, because I think that, a lot of people need religion just to live. So I wouldn't take that away from them per se. Do I believe in religion? No, I think there's a lot of things there. There's a lot of roots there, a lot of places that religion has came from and places that religion would like to stay. But I think that religion and science has been trying to answer the same exact question. Why are we here? What are we here for? What is the purpose of it? And science has came around in the Renaissance? That's in the 1600s, a couple hundred years ago. We've had religion since the dawn of man. You looked at the sun and said, that must be God. But then here comes science answering the same exact questions. What is that glowing thing in the sky? What are we doing every day? You understand? It's just separated by centuries and politics and roots. You understand?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think that God is an actual thing, like the way time is, like the way space is. And why do we need to label him God if he is everything? Because you're a part of God, but you are not God. It's like saying this planet Earth is the universe. It is not the universe. It is a part of the universe. So then why do we have a name for planet Earth and a name for the universe? If the universe is also planet Earth, why not just call planet Earth the universe? Because we need labels, we need titles, we need things to differentiate A from B. And also, not everybody is going to be able to pick up the double-slit experiment and understand it. And I've been preaching this stuff to my girl for like over a year, and she just recently understood the double-slit experiment because people don't care about science. Most people are not science literate, but I think today, in today's age, quantum physics has proven that there is a God. Quantum physics is a lot about conscious energy and the brain creating the universe instead of the other way around. You know, you even have Boltzmann brains and stuff like that says all the way at the end of the universe where when entropy and everything is as far away as possible and there's nothing left, that there's a possibility. I mean, it's theoretical, obviously, but they're just playing with the ideas that they're playing with the ideas of consciousness. They're looking at consciousness differently. And I think consciousness is where God is.
Okay.
We're all consciousness.
Yeah, so I just want to back things up because I do want to give Reggie a chance to maybe ask some questions and kind of join in on this conversation.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Well, I think that everything goes.
I cannot hear you at all, Reggie. I'm sorry. The phone. Maybe it's my. 1 second. I'm sorry. Okay, this is my earpiece out. I was having difficulty hearing that.
Okay, Reggie, try talking again real quick.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, go for it.
So Dan mentioned in the beginning of the show that things tend to hinge on definitions, and everything that you described reminded me of that.
Reggie, I'm so sorry, Reggie. My phone is hearing every other word that you're saying. I would love to hear what you're saying. I'm hearing every other word that you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But basically, I was saying that God and what it is seems to be based on what the person's definition is.
Yeah, so basically what Reggie is saying is God and what God is kind of based on people's definition of what God is. And I guess I'll kind of reiterate and echo what Reggie is saying since we're having a bit of trouble hearing him. So, you know, God is such a nebulous term that has been used to describe a lot of different things in a lot of different cultures, and rightfully so. You pointed that out, Julius. Like, definitely, you know, there's politics involved, there's human interests involved, but like God has been used to describe as part of religions for, I mean, countless times that no human could ever possibly know of all of them. But to say that we're talking about the double-slit experiment and we're going into this deep science of the physics of the universe and the mechanics of the universe, and to just call that God, to me, it just doesn't really mean a whole lot. Even though you gave, and I think you gave a very beautiful explanation of yes, but we're all part of this larger thing, and even our atoms that are still part of the universe, and so it's appropriate to like call us the universe the same way the Earth is, and this and that, and I think that's a wonderful way of looking at it. But to say that I can't be an atheist anymore because now I believe in God because I'm a part of this universe, you know, like that is kind of that's a different state of mind than where I'm at now. Does that make sense? Like, it's hard for me to cross over to that bridge if we're kind of being really open with our terms and saying that God is kind of everything, right?
Now, if you say that, you know, God is the universe and God is everything, and you're thinking of inanimate objects, and you think that there's nothing there, then that's one thing. But what I'm saying is that it's way deeper than anything that I just said to you. Like, for instance, the Higgs field, the Higgs boson. These things all point to energies and things that are a part of our reality that we have no clue about. You understand? The inanimate objects that you share things in common with, maybe it doesn't move around like you do, but the particles that are inside of it, the atom, the electrons, the protons, the neutrons, the things that make up those things, those are always in constant motion. And the motion that they achieve makes the times of each part of them differently. And when you get into time itself, there's tangents of time. There's so much different levels of reality, and it just seems like there is a conscious thing behind everything, kind of propelling things toward something, anything.
Ooh, okay.
I hear all the time that you say, not you, but people on your show would say, if God is real and God is loving and so on and so forth, why does He have African children dying of starvation, or what was the Holocaust about, or all these other travesties? I think since God is everything, since we are all God, we're all a part of God. And if you were able to see the entire universe, if you were able to see how every atom has something in common, because it did at one point, the Big Bang, and that means that they're all entangled. Because if they were made from the same spot, the atom makes multiples. Like any particle that's created is created with multiples of them, and they shoot off in different parts of the universe, but they're still entangled with each other, where the information between these two particles, they move faster than the speed of light. You could be on complete opposite ends of the universe, and it changes automatically. You understand? If I decide to go left, my twinner atom decides to go right.
Yeah.
And that's just with entanglement. That is not even talking about time and the tangents of time. When you get into the fifth dimension, which is, the fourth dimension is time. The fifth dimension is a tangent of that time, which basically means timelines. The fifth dimension is.
You're getting into some deep sci-fi here, Julius. I love, well, not sci-fi. I mean, some of this is real science. A lot of this stuff is what you're talking about. But I just want sorry, we hit the mic there. Just trying to reel things back into here, right? So we can have kind of a conversation about this, right? I love your sense of curiosity towards the universe and how much you seem to have gleaned from the stuff that you've read. I think that's a really wonderful thing. And I'm so glad that you're talking about it with us here as well. I want to talk about
I'm happy to talk about it with you.
You sound very it sounds it sounds like you're really happy to talk about this stuff with people, and the people who I've encountered who talk about this stuff are generally kind of, I mean, their open-mindedness kind of gets them to these kinds of conclusions, right? Because they're really reading into what science has to say and what people who have studied this stuff for years has to say, which is really interesting. But I also think that you can come to certain conclusions based on some of the data given that will be hard to either prove or just hard to encapsulate in a single kind of belief system that's consistent in general. So, like, for example, you were saying that, what happens to the kids in Africa if God is real and stuff like that. And yeah, I get that, because certain definitions of God, that wouldn't really make sense. And your definition of God is different. It's encapsulating some different concepts here. What I'm kind of curious to say is, like, are you saying that because everything is God, at least that's kind of the base claim, right? I know you're saying a bunch of stuff, but like, if that's the base claim, that everything is God, and let's not go beyond that. Let's not say anything about the Big Bang and stuff like that. That, like, because everything is this God, that I can't be an atheist, or it wouldn't make sense for me to be an atheist because I have to believe in God if we're coming to kind of this conclusion. I think that was like the kind of original point of your call, right?
The original point of my call is if you were able to, for just 2 seconds, not think of God as tied into a Bible or a book or the concepts that man has thought of. If you were to think of God the way that we used to think of time, but now we think of time, if you were to apply the same thing, then maybe you would see where it was coming from. I think that there is a conscious energy there. For instance, evolution.
Whoa. What is conscious energy? Where's the conscious energy at?
what is conscious energy, right?
Yeah. What is that? Tell me about that.
So this conscious energy that I'm talking about, theoretically speaking, there's discussions out there that says, along the lines of, is your brain creating your consciousness, or is your brain more like a sense to allow your consciousness to be?
Totally.
And the implications of either one of those answers is actually immense. One of them says that you're immortal, and the other one says that you die with your brain.
Yeah.
You understand?
Well, okay, I don't know about immortal, but I mean, I see what you mean, right? If it's a consciousness outside of physical parts, but like, do you believe that consciousness exists outside of physics? Like, the physics doesn't account for consciousness?
Physics doesn't necessarily understand consciousness yet. They're trying to.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way that we're going to develop our artificial intelligence. But they don't necessarily understand. Consciousness is a very complex thing.
Yeah.
But what I will say is, with the evidence that we have, we can look at evolution, right? So in evolution, we are the apex predator of the entire planet Earth. Just period. So why? Because of our brains. The thing the driving force of evolution is to say, whatever this animal needs to survive, the tools that this animal has developed to survive, if they are successful in the survival, then they'll breed more, and then more animals are going to have the same traits that they have. And eventually, I come along, a human being, at the top of the line, right? I'm not strong. You're not strong. Humans aren't strong. Every animal can almost, they have better sight than we do. They have bigger teeth than we do. They have bigger muscles than we do. Some of them can fly. We can't fly. We can't run. We can't do anything. All we can do is talk and think. And that is what has conquered the entire planet Earth. So if evolution is the driving force behind every animal, right, what has evolution told us? Evolution has told us the strongest tool that you can have for survival is conscious energy. It is all about getting to the point where you can cognize, where you can think, because that is the strongest tool that you'll have.
See,
if there was an animal that can come along that's stronger than us,
if I could push back just a little bit.
Us.
Yeah, because, we always, but like, also, there's a timeline to events too, right? Like, human beings are on the scene quite recently when it comes to all of the life that has ever been on Earth. There has definitely been points in time on Earth where the most it also depends on what you mean by successful too, because if we're talking about like population-wise, like, we're definitely not the most populated species on Earth. Like, do we control the most land mass? I mean, even then, that's arguable because, like, animals and stuff definitely use the lands that we use too. I think the biggest pushback I might have, Julius, is in the description of scientific ideas and history and just science terms in general. I just hear a lot of linguistic terms that can tend to go on the emotional side or go describe some sort of narrative that may not actually be present. Like, evolution is telling us that we are the strongest, and like that makes us something, or it's when we look at the universe, there seems to be a consciousness behind it.
I try to use words like seems to be and I believe because, to be honest with you, I'm not trying to say that this is a definite thing. But what do I know? I don't know anything. I'm a paramedic from Brooklyn. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I just want to know, like, how can I, as an atheist, come to the conclusion that you do, that there definitely is a consciousness behind everything, that there's some sort of grand narrative? Like, is there some sort of evidence or argument you could present to me that you would describe that as true, that, leads you to your own belief?
Other than, all right, so we're going to go ahead and say that evolution wasn't a good example of consciousness, or smarts, as another word, is a very valuable tool.
And I just want to do like 5 more minutes of this call so we can get some other callers too, just so we can
totally. Totally.
What I would say is, I think a great example of consciousness being the driving force behind things, and basically a major tool on this planet, at least for us. Well, we know it's this planet. It's the only thing that we've ever seen. I believe one of the best examples of that is evolution. We have nothing. We have no physical anything. All we have is our brains. our intellect, our ability to dream. You know, you don't have these things without intelligence. And as far as human beings are concerned, I'm not exactly sure. I think I heard you say that it wasn't until recently that we've had all of these advances or something like that. Am I
Well, like
correctly,
human beings, as far as geologically speaking, as far as Earth is concerned, right? Human beings have only existed for a very small chunk of the life here on Earth.
Yeah, and look how fast we took the whole planet over. As far as land masses go, it's actually proven that we move more land on planet Earth than anything else on planet Earth.
Well, I mean, like bacteria and stuff?
We do everything on this planet. If bacteria obviously outnumbers us. Insects outnumber us. Lots of animals outnumber us. I'm not talking about population-wise. I'm talking about control. We control this planet. We can destroy this planet.
So that's an interesting word you use, because, like, what do we mean by control? Because, like, look, I may think I'm in control, but as soon as a virus hits me, then who's really in control, right? I mean, entire plagues
you're just one person.
Have wiped out.
You're just one person.
Sure, but plagues have wiped out entire civilizations worth of people. You know, I think control is kind of a relative term if we're thinking about it in that sense, right?
Okay, but just as you said, the plague. As we advance, as we get smarter, as our technology gets smarter, maybe we could become one of those tiers, you know, the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 civilizations.
Yeah, maybe.
They say we're about 0.7 of the tier 1 civilization, so we're pretty close to that. But just as you brought up the plague, it wiped out most of humanity, a large percentage of it. But you know what they have today? They have medication for the plague.
Yeah.
They have bubonic plague outbreaks.
Yeah.
We have protocols for that.
But we also, some of us don't even believe in vaccinations, though. So it's hard to say. I mean, you know, maybe if we're talking about it in general terms, we've done that. But, you know, also a vast majority of, well, that's a separate thing. Anyway, I do want to try to kind of wrap things up here and talk with Reggie about this. But Julius, I want next time, if we do talk about this again, because I would be curious to explore this a little bit more. I'm just kind of, you know, we jumped to a bunch of different topics, which is great.
Yeah,
but
it's pretty big.
Yeah, it is pretty big. But I'd love for you to come with something as specific as possible that you think you can demonstrate to me is a belief that you think is true, and see if you can convince me of that. And I'd love to explore that with you next time.
Sure.
Cool.
Sure.
Thanks for calling, Julius. This was really fun. I look forward to hearing from you again, man.
All right. You guys have a great night, and I love your show.
Thanks, man. I love it too.
Good night.
See you later.